And good afternoon. Welcome to Codebase Alpha special bonus edition here on a Thursday in the afternoon in the UK. I'm sat here in the code of our chatbot, and really I started this extra stream because it was a very unsatisfying way to finish off yesterday when I had to finish very abruptly, and I got trapped down a big rabbit hole with JTokens. So I'm going to put some chill music on just to kind of relax us into some coding. Skip the green. There we go, some relaxed daily. And I want to kind of revisit what we did yesterday and basically sort out some of the kind of issues that we ended up with in terms of the configuration of Lewis, which was far from ideal. So I did a bit of reading at bedtime about that and reconfigured that. I'd like to show what I did. So it's on the stream. It's recorded and on the videos. And the videos will be around on Twitch for about 60 days, so you'll be able to keep up with them. And also, if I type into chat my YouTube channel, then please go over there, click subscribe. It's free to do so, and you'll be able to keep abreast of all the latest videos that come up, and you'll get a notification when they get posted. So let's start off by having a look at the Lewis part of what we hit yesterday. So if I go over to Lewis on the browser, you can see the intents that we set up yesterday. So we set up a set time zone intent and a when next intent. The set time zone intent is fairly simple. So if we go in here, you can see we created some sample utterances. So these are things that the person can say, or most likely type in this case. Reset time zone, set time zone, time zone all one word, etc. And these are trained into the model, and these work fine. So if we use any of these phrases, and we can add other sample phrases as well, then our bot responds by starting up the set time zone dialog. The problem we had yesterday, and it was due to me not really understanding how this had been changed over time, was we also set up this when next intent, and you can see here I've got no sample utterances anymore because I removed them all. We set up a whole load of them, probably about 6 or 7, which isn't that many, and we set them with an entity label. But then I found that it wouldn't necessarily recognise multi-word streamer names, so Codebase space alpha wasn't being picked up, dev space chatter wasn't being picked up. But actually the percentage hits for if I typed in a streamer name which I hadn't used before was incredibly low, and I couldn't quite figure it out because when we used the Alexa skill kit, it was really quite clever. It recognised that there was a kind of a delimited variable that was in that phrase, and it would kind of try its best to pick out that kind of variable, no matter how many words there were. So we had to train it so that it recognised that variable could have 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, 4 words, whatever. But that was fairly simple. We just gave it examples, and the machine learning picked up what to do. It was quite clever. When we created example utterances here, it didn't seem very, very bright. And we noticed this add a pattern button, which is here, and we tried it a few times and got some errors, and I couldn't quite figure out what was going on. But as you can see, I've been in and I've removed all the sample utterances that we had yesterday. And I've also changed the entity. So we go to entities, we've still got the streamer name entity, but as you can see, rather than type simple, it's now a type pattern.ne, and this is the key really. So this pattern.ne means we've got a combination of kind of manual marking of the entity and also machine learning. Katsuken, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me on this pop-up extra stream. So it's nice to see you in chat. So enjoy yourself. Ace Flameseer, welcome as well. Good to see you. So hopefully we'll get a few people who will join. But the main option is if you weren't kind of party to the train wreck of a stream I had yesterday. Oh, MT, thank you for the follow. That's fantastic. So we really are powering on towards our goal now. So thank you so much for that. Let's give you a bit of electric alf to to enjoy. So there's Alf, our alien compatriot who works with us here on Codebase Help, for demonstrating some of his supernatural skills. So that's Electric Elf. Okay, so yes, streamer name. It's now a pattern.any, and you can see it's got no definitions in it. It's not got a role, but what we've done is added to this patterns tab here. So if I go to patterns, you'll see we've got loads of these patterns now. These are very similar to the utterances we set up last time, but actually these utterances work. So what it's doing, it's saying what time is and broadcasting are kind of delimiters, and whatever appears in between those phrases is going to be a streamer name. Coded Beard, welcome, good to see you. So by going and making this change and switching over from sample utterances to patterns with the pattern.any entity, it means now that when we train and test this model, it gets these things pretty spot on. In fact, it's approached 100% accuracy. However, what it does mean is that you have to list an awful lot of sample patterns, and you have to try and guess what people are going to use. So it doesn't seem to be quite smart enough to use contractions. So we have to put when's streamer on next and when is streamer on next in order for it to kind of pick that up. So I'm not sure if over time we could train it to actually pick up the contractions as well. So we've got I'd like information, but I haven't trained in I would like, for example. So we can see that if I go up here to test, if I test this model and I type in let's get it right, I'd like information about Codebase Alpha. Okay, if I spelt it right, it'd be okay. But you can see that what's happened. It's actually failed. That's interesting, isn't it? Let's train the model again and let's make sure that we're okay. Okay, I'd like information about Codebase Alpha. Yeah, so it's not, that's interesting, that's not working. So it's hit at 98% of none and it's not predicted our entity. So let's try another one. Let's try when is dev chatter on next. You'll see this done an awful lot better with this because it's got two delimiters. It's got the what time is, when is, and the on next. So that's an interesting kind of observation that maybe these ones which end with the streamer name aren't going to be quite as clever. So let's try tell me about NoOpCat. Let's see what happens there. So that has picked it out. So there's something about I'd like information about which probably bears more investigation, maybe some individual training. But we're into a lot better shape now. As you can see, this is a 100% match on the when next, and it's successfully picked out the streamer name. So that's kind of the first thing that we've changed. So we've trained and published that model, and so we've got four pages of these patterns, and we're going to add more to them as we kind of work out what people actually are going to use on the bot. This is very, very similar now to how the Alexa skill kit worked, so I'm a lot more comfortable. There's also a concept of roles that we can apply to our entities, and these are things like if you had a city as an entity and you wanted to say how far is it from city to city, you could allocate the first instance of city to a from role and the second instance of city to a to role, and so then you can kind of give some context to your entities as they appear. So let's pop out of this now. So that's what we've done. And if I go back over here to our code, the other thing that I did not long after closing the stream, after I've had some dinner because I was getting rather hungry, I just broke out the process Lewis step here which kind of sat in the it sat here in the default case. I broke it out to its own method. Okay, so this is all very well, but it's far from ideal. You can see in this method that I broke out, what we're doing is we're calling begin in async here, begin dialogue and begin dialogue, and that's really kind of repetition now, because we're actually invoking those dialogues here in our main kind of switch statement. So that's what we want to do really. We want to be able to do it here and not have the dialogues invoked in two places. That's kind of a silly thing to do really. But it was sufficient for when we were actually playing around yesterday and kind of getting kind of stuck into this statement here was the thing that kind of stymied me for, is it an hour, maybe even longer than an hour. It was quite embarrassing, to be perfectly frank with you viewers. So but we've got it sorted now. It probably needs a bit of production hardening, to be honest with you, but it actually does work, and we've got the null coalescing in here so that if it can't find anything, it's not going to crash. And what I've done is wrapped it in a try-catch as well, just so I can kind of figure out if there's any problems with it, and that'll get logged. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to kind of smarten up this bit of code really, because it's repeating stuff. So don't repeat yourself is kind of the mantra that we kind of try to adhere to, isn't it? So let's get it so it doesn't repeat itself. So it's not trying to begin dialogues in two locations. And in order to do that, I think what we need to do is actually invoke this process Lewis result in a different place, rather than invoking it here in this when it's kind of failed to match 1, 2, 3 or 4 from our menu. It's kind of a default now. Okay, try to figure out if there's a Lewis result from that. If you fail that, come back with a witty response from Q&A maker, because that's what's giving our bot some personality there. It's a bit kind of muddled in its flow. So you know, the artificial intelligence has been kind of demoted to a secondary role here, whereas we might as well kind of bring this to the fore. So what I would like to do is to pull this piece of code out, and I'd like to promote it to pretty much near the top of the code. So when we're in here, we're getting our channel data here. We could actually pop that in pretty much there. Should we put it in? I know, we'll put it in here. Okay. And we don't need this response message anymore, so let's get rid of that. Now, our intent matched is currently a boolean, and we don't want a boolean. We actually want 1, 2, 3 or 4, so that it kind of goes into our menu here. So let's look at that. Let's go back down to our process Lewis method here, and let's change that to a string, and let's change this to string.empty. So that now, rather than returning when we match an intent, rather than returning, you know, yes we matched, no we didn't, we're going to actually return some text. Okay, so so when we match on a utility's help, let's return the word help. We can say here's some help, and then actually print some help out. When we match when next, let's send back the number 2, because that is the menu option people would have pressed. So they can either press the menu option button, they can type 2, or now they can type a phrase in which matches the which matches the when next intent from Lewis. So we're actually figuring it out kind of dynamically with artificial intelligence. And set time zone here, that's actually option 4 from the menu. Let's not start the dialogues at all. Let's get rid of that. And let's not await that. Let's just do that. So now our method is going to return a string, which is the matching intent, or it's going to return the empty string. And if it's the empty string, we didn't match on an intent, basically. Now the interesting thing, what do we do with this one, this streamer name? Okay, so this originally was being fed into our begin dialog as an option, and we're going to do the same thing here, I think. So what I'd like to do is pull this out like this and promote it to near the top here. And rather than streaming them, we're going to say options, because we don't know in future what we may add to this list. And here we'll say this is options. Okay, so now what we're pulling back is a string intent matched, and we've got an options which we're using, but it's being lost. We're setting it here and it's just disappearing. So what we need to do now is to actually return a tuple. So let's do that. Now for the tuple, I've just got a note here of exactly what the tuple we want is. We need to enclose this in brackets, and it's string. Okay, so there's our tuple that we're going to return. And we also notice we're not actually using dialog context, so we can actually simplify our method signature somewhat by doing that. Now what we can do is to actually give these things names. So the first element of the tuple is the intent, and the second element of the tuple is the options. Okay, so that just makes it a bit clearer. And down here, rather than just returning intent matched, we want to return intent matched and options. Okay, so that's the refactoring we've done on that method. And now what we need to do is pop up here and obviously return. So we don't need the dialog context anymore, we're not passing that in. We need to return a tuple, and we're going to disassemble that tuple. We're going to break that tuple apart. I'm going to have options here. Okay, options is not currently used, but what we're going to do is if we do get anything in options, we're going to pass it here into our begin dialog, and we've already got the code that will handle that. That's options. Okay, so over in our when next dialog, you remember yesterday we went in and we actually captured that as the streamer name from the step context to options value. Okay, I hope you're following along so far. So this is the basic refactoring we want to do. Now here we're setting our choice to be in the context activity, the text, what someone typed in. However, we can't do that anymore. What we need to do is say we need a ternary statement here. So string dot is null or white space of what do we call it? Intent matched. So in that case, we do want to take what the user typed in. So if there's nothing in the intent matched, it's just the empty string or it's a null or whatever, we take whatever the user typed in. But if it isn't null, we want to take the intent matched, that piece of text that's come back, which is now going to match the 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we no need to worry about the intent matched flag there, because we're now going to only fall through into default if we can't process the 1, 2, 3 or 4. Now the other thing we did add was help. So down here in our method we said that there was a help option. Okay, and what we can do is take this away now. We'll copy that into our paste buffer, And now that's a nice, neat little switch statement. And we can come up here and we can add another case to our switch, which is case help. And what that's going to do is print some help out. And then we're going to break. Okay. Well, the other thing that we can notice in kind of terms of looking at dry, when you examine your code, it's a good idea to see where you're doing the same thing a lot of times. And I look through this code and I see display main menu there. I see display main menu there. I see display main menu here. I see display main menu here. And I also see save changes in a lot of places. And in fact, when we drop out of this switch statement, we're going to do the save changes anyway. So our refactoring ought to take that into account as well. So if we look at what this is actually saying, it's saying if you cancelled your dialog, display the main menu. Here it's saying if you're in a waiting state, but in fact the dialog was complete, display the main menu, save the changes. If the dialog is complete, save the changes, display the main menu. And surely we should be able to just bring this piece of code down here and do that, display the main menu. The problem with that is, if we now get rid of this code, and we can get rid of this code, and this code here, and indeed this code, okay, so we've now tidied up that. The problem is that when we go through our dialogues, we're still dropped. We're in a kind of waiting state, or we're in whatever state we're in. It's still going to drop down. And it's going to display the main menu every single time we're in a dialogue step. Silly Dev, welcome. Stop. There's a code rush helper for that. There is a code rush helper for that. I'm just trying to go through through it. Used adding switch arguments. Yes, there is Control L. What I wanted to do is kind of go through and explain my thinking. So yeah, I'm not currently using the code rush feature. I don't want everything to disappear. So if we just get rid of that results as well. Okay, so what I'm basically getting at is that if we're not actually in an active dialogue, we want to display the main menu after we've completed an operation. But if we are in an active dialogue, we don't want to do that. It's fine to save the changes and do all that kind of stuff, but if we're in an active dialogue, just skip over the display of the main menu. So how we can detect that? We can say if if dialogue context, so this is the context of the current dialogue, the active dialogue is null. We use pattern matching on that, then we can display our main menu. So this is now a lot neater. We display the main menu in one place, which is what the kind of thing we want to do. So I've being really hard on myself at the moment for not using shortcuts and code rush commands. I'm exactly the same. There are times when it's fantastic and I use it all the time. On stream, I'm a bit more ambivalent towards using it. I'll use it if it's not explaining code. But here I wanted to kind of explain the refactoring that we're going through, the kind of decisions, and where the repeated code was. So displayed main menu all over the place. In fact, these two lines as well, the save changes lines were all over the place. Let's kind of not do that. Let's be a bit more sensible about how we actually structure our code. And that's been like that for quite a while, so getting rid of that is quite satisfying. So now we should be in a condition where we're going to drop into here. We pick up any data from the adaptive cards, which are in the postbacks. Thanks, early Dev. We also process through Lewis to make sure that the user hasn't typed something that we can actually process through Lewis. We intelligently set our user choice to being either what the user typed in or what came back from Lewis, and we then use the existing menu structure, the existing switch statement, to process that. And what else? Yeah, we've now kind of trimmed down our Lewis processing to the bare minimum, and we can probably trim this a bit more as well. So this is pretty trivial stuff here. The only complexity we have is when we pull out the streamer's name, when we actually match on an entity. So let's give this a go and see how far we get with it. Surly Dev, thank you so much for the subscription. That is absolutely fantastic. So that definitely warrants some hyperspatial hype. So let's close down that so we can see the hyperspatial hype. So thank you so much. There's some hyperspatial alf, some millions and millions of alf. Oh, that was from Michael Jolly. Oh, thank you for the gift sub, Michael. That's fantastic. So I didn't, it's not obvious until I actually glance and read the small print over in the chat window that was a gift sub. But yes, thank you, Michael. That's wonderful. Yeah, certainly it's been a great help on stream, so I do appreciate his support, so that's super. Yes, I've suddenly realised, certainly Dev, that it was the Michael Jolly that gifted the sub, so you've now got a green rocket, you notice, against your name. So Michael Jolly is a great supporter and does give some gift subs out for the stream, for which I'm eternally grateful. Any kind of support for the stream is just like unexpected, and it's so wonderful that we're going really closing in our follower goal. I've got a number of subscribers who are kind of helping me out, so that's fantastic. You're doing a clip, okay. So we can have as many hyperspatial hypes as you want. It's fine. We can just press that button on the stream deck and you get one of those. Okay, so we're now running. Let's start up our bot framework emulator, and we'll give it a background so we can see it nicely. There we go. We need to pick up the URL of the bot, which is there. Open the bot, append API/messages to that URL, and we can connect. And we should hit into our menu. We've got our welcome message, our menu. We can set our time zone. So we'll say United States, and we'll say New York. Submit that. So we've now got a time zone here, you can see. And now I can type some messages. I can say, when is Dev Chatter? And you notice there's space now in Dev Chatter that I couldn't get to work yesterday. When are they on? And we should get a nice card come back. We get the thinking or the typing indicator. Now it's going to be asleep, so it might take a little while to come back, but there it is, has come back. We've got our Dev Chatter adaptive card. It's got their URL, it's got their schedule, and it says they're next streaming on Saturday. I think this Dev Chatter is actually supposed to be streaming pretty much about now, but their next stream, not including the current one, is on Saturday at 1 PM, and that is America and New York time, of course. All those times are. Our GraphQL query has translated those time zones for us. Okay, now I can go on and type when is Codebase Alpha streaming next, and we should get a Codebase Alpha card, and you can see it's got the times there. So next stream's on Monday. Yay, we got it working. So, you never heard Surly Dev has been a help before, Surly Dev. Well, you are a helper. You've been in chat many times now, and always kind of very supportive and come back with some good suggestions and comments. So it's fantastic to be to have you and in the stream. And one of the things that really kind of amazes me is the kind of the real great community we have amongst the live coders. The live coders team are very, very supportive of the members, and all your viewers and chatters are superb. So I can't really thank you enough. Okay, so we've got a nice working application now. The menu, as you can see, comes up in the right place. We can type help in here, and we should get here's some help, and we get our menu back. And we can now go in, so we can actually go inside our time zone. We can say United States, and here we can say stop. Well, actually, you can say stop or exit, even exit, and it'll. That's interesting. It hasn't stopped. Stop. Cancel. There we are. It's done it now. So I didn't. Maybe exit's not one of the words we've got. But let's go and have a look at that. So we show you how that works. This was covered on an earlier stream. So we've got a special dialog called the cancel and help dialog, which basically extends component dialog. And you'll notice that my other dialogs actually extend cancel and help dialog. And in cancel and help dialog, we've got some overrides. We haven't got exit look here, so let's add exit to the case here. Case exit. So while we think of these things and come across them, we might as well add them. And see, you've got help and question mark there. So what we should be able to do as well is demonstrate the so-called personality of the bot. So this is in cases where we actually can't decide what the user was trying to ask us. So we drop through into the default case, and we pop the turn context containing the message that they sent off to Q&A Maker, and get it to try and figure out how to respond. And we've set the bot to be witty, which is only relatively witty. So so if we type in how old are you, this is chatting up the chatbot really. It'll take a little while to come back because our Q&A Maker is on a free tier and it's been asleep for days. So it's not going to be very responsive initially. So we might need to wait a little while for that to come back. But once it warms up, it'll be a bit more sprightly, let's say. So it may even time out initially. So let's just see what happens. So my plan for the next part of the stream is to start to add a bit more functionality. So there's a feature that we've got here, which is find out who is live now. Let's implement that. So let's restart this conversation and try that in. How old are you? And it's come back this time. I'm a bot, so I don't have an age. Okay, you can say, are you a boy or a girl? When you're a bot, you're not really a boy or a girl, you just are. So it's kind of come back with some kind of retort. So we can, if people do start to play around with the bot and start putting in silly messages, it is going to come back and with some kind of response. It's not just going to say, please type a menu option. If it can't decide what to respond with, it will just select, please type a menu option. But it's got that bit of personality there behind it, and it's really, this is it's not it's quite a serious project in a way, but we're also trying to build in as many kind of features to demonstrate what you can do with these chatbots with the Microsoft Bot Framework. Okay, so let's commit those changes. So that's episode 29 refactor. Let's commit those changes. Okay. Now, in order to program in the who is live now option, what we're going to need to do is to, and this is option 1, who is live now, we're going to need to extend what our client, our GraphQL client, can do. And we've already got most of the code in place. So here's our GraphQL client, and currently it's set up to get channel by name, and it uses this GraphQL query here. This is a GraphQL query which I defined for the DevChatter project, DevStreams project by DevChatter, and it uses a SoundX query in SQL, so that you can type in a name of a streamer, and you haven't got to spell it exactly right, get the spacing exactly right. You can be, there's a fair amount of leeway in how you can spell the name of the streamer, and it should get it correct. So that's that bit. So down here we have an unimplemented get live channels query. So let's implement that. So what we'll do is start up by just copying the whole of the above, and then we'll just change it. So here we are. So our GraphQL request now needs to be changed. So it's going to actually get multiple channels. So we can change the name of the query. And the name of the query doesn't actually affect anything. Name live channels. And we no longer want to give the channel a name. We just want the time zone. We no longer need any of that, but we do want to get channels back. That's good. This is going to now give us the name of the channel here, the URL of the channel, the country code where the channel's in, so we don't actually need that yet. We don't necessarily need the next stream because it's actually live on now, but we do need the tags. So the tags are things like what they are actually streaming. So hello Rambler Geek, welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. This is an impromptu Codebase Alpha to make up for the debacle yesterday. So welcome to the stream. I'm glad you managed to join us. Are you still at work? Oh, then there's a name. Ashish Singh Bagel. Ashish Singh Bagel, is that correct? Welcome to the stream. I'm sorry for butchering your name if I have butchered it. But oh, I was right. Okay, welcome to the stream. Yes, it was all good. Well, yeah, that's a matter of opinion. You're still at work, are you, Comedy Geek? I'm glad I got your name at least relatively right. Ashish, I'll call you. So yes, a warm welcome to the stream. Let's actually have some electric Alf. Stick to Ash. Okay, I will do. That's probably. Oh, thanks for the follow. That's wonderful. I was just about to give you some electric Alf hype, so we'll give you that for the follow. So thank you very much, Ash. That was very well appreciated. So thank you. There we are. There's some electric Alf. This is a shader which is was contributed to the stream by our good friend Fuel Snable. And if you missed it on last Monday, Fuel Snable, Morton was on stream to talk to us about creating parsers using F#, and it was a mind-stretching stream to say the least. Okay, so we're getting out the name of our channel, the URL, and we're going to get the tags. So these are the subjects which the streamer streams. So we can display that nicely on the screen. We probably won't get as far as displaying it particularly nicely today, but let's see what happens. And here we're going to return channels, and rather than a single channel, it's going to be a list of channels. Okay, so that's basically set up our GraphQL query. And what we can do, we can test this out. So let's see if we can do that. We'll go over to my implementation of the DevStreams project, and we've got a GraphQL playground over there. And here's some work I was working on earlier. So let's remove all of this. In fact, let's go and grab the code from within our query here. So that's that. Pop that into the playground, which is over here. And rather than actually asking for a variable there, we can simply say that's going to be America, New York. I may be forgetting my syntax here. Yes, I am. So let's go back to how we were. So that's going to be. Where are we? Over here. That's that. Yes, I know it's wrong. I'm trying to correct it. There we go. And we'll get rid of name from here. And what we want to do is pass in. Actually, we don't need a time zone, do we? Because we don't need time zone at all, in fact. So that's good. So we don't need to pass any variables in. So that's something we've learned there. So we can now run that query. And we get dev chatter is live now. So that's interesting. Dev chatter is actually live. So I've obviously missed his alert. And also Codebase Alpha. That's not right, is it? So okay, so that's not the right query. Not channels. So let's go and find out what that query is supposed to be. So let's get rid of this. Live channels it is rather than channels. So let's run that query. And according to that, there aren't any live channels, which is very, very interesting. I don't quite believe that because we're live, aren't we? But never mind. Let's see what. Let's run that again. Actually, there we are. Codebase Alpha's come back the second time. So there's obviously a delay on the Twitch. So we're live. It looks like dev chatter isn't live currently. And you can see that I've tagged our stream with English language, C# and .NET Core. We can add other things obviously to that on the dev stream side. So we need to make sure that we actually pull back live channels now. Let's pull that into our code. So it's really, really useful to be able to model our queries using that playground. And we know there aren't any variables. So that's the query that we want to fire off to GraphQL. And if you're not familiar with GraphQL, then check out previous streams. They're all up on YouTube or on Video Demand. Now there's a good name again. So Daix, Di. Good to see you, Di. I'll call you Di or Daix. I can't. You can enlighten me how to properly pronounce your name. We don't want to keep butchering it. So welcome to the stream. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in chat before, so a warm welcome. Do hit the follow button if you feel so inclined. It does help me out, and we'll keep you informed of new streams as they appear. So this is a pop-up stream, a bonus stream outside my normal schedule. So also following on Twitter is a good one. So it's Dal. Is that Dal? So my eyesight and my monitor's a bit different, far away. Day one, is it? Juan. Welcome anyway. I'll call you Di. Okay. So we've got our query all lined up now, and that is now this is going to be part of our channel graph client. You can see here. So we actually now have a strongly typed client with only two possible queries on it. So get live channels and get channel by name. So that's sorted. What we need to do now is we're going to need to have a new. You need my GitHub address. So I think my GitHub is over here. Everything we do on stream is on GitHub, including the bot that's running in the chat at the moment. So we have a bot. So if you type help, you'll see the bot commands that we've got. We've also got Nightbot who's moderating for us. So those commands aren't included in that help. So we've got a number of different commands there. One command I will draw to your attention to is the hey command. This is a command to draw my attention, because sometimes I get lost in the code and you might be there sitting there saying, oh, I've got the answer for you, or there's a bug on line 50 or something. So the hey command will get my attention by playing that sound effect, which hopefully you just heard. The other command, which is one of my favourites, is the launches command, which is particularly relevant for today. Launches, the default value there will give you launches for SpaceX, but you can put a argument on there. So if you're interested in rocket launches for the ULA, for example, United Launch Alliance, you can put ULA, or you can put Rocket Lab or whatever to find out about upcoming launches. And there's one tonight. Actually, it's tomorrow morning my time, but I think in the US it is this evening. This is the Starlink launch, which was scrubbed twice last week. And you may guess that actually, because of the rocket theme, I'm a bit of a space nut, so that's why there's rockets and aliens and things like that on this stream. Alright, so we've got a dummy dialogue being kicked off here, so we need to actually define a new dialogue. The dialogues are set up here, so you can see there's we've got the dummy dialogue here, but we've actually got some kind of strongly typed dialogues. When next and set time zone. We need a new one, so let's create that now. So we add a class. This is going to be the live now dialogue. So let's press that, and we're going to extend cancel and help dialogue. And to do that, we need to implement the missing constructor. Okay, so we're going to need to pass in a client in here, and we're also going to need to well, we only need to pass a client in. We don't need to any user state at this point. So okay, so let's go and have a look at our when next dialog, which is here, and you can see we actually inject a client. So let's do that ourselves. So over in our live now, we can inject a we can create a constructor. Let's go and grab the whole constructor, in fact. And we'll grab that private variable as well. Drop that into here. And the live now dialog. We don't need to inject any user state. We just need an iChannel client. Get rid of that, and let's just bring in a few missing namespaces. Okay, and we don't need any of this, and there's no more dialogues that we need to add. We all should be taken care of in one step, and that step should be get live streams step async. So this is what I was planning to do yesterday, and we got kind of stuck in a terrible situation with J tokens, and it was most annoying and kind of wasted a lot of your time as viewers. We did get there in the end, but it just seemed such a pain that I wanted to come on and do this extra stream, because yeah, it was pretty awful. Okay, so here we are. Let's grab a private method out of here, which is going to be our step. Okay, so this is the get live streams async. We need to bring in the threading namespace for the cancellation tokens, goes in there. There's no need for any of this here. We don't need to get any user state. Where is the main dev? I'm not quite sure what you mean there, Di. So for this project, that's in the chatbox bot repository. The bot itself, the bot that's running in the chat client, is in the SNB bot repositories, and there's about 26 repositories in there, some of which are forks, some of which are kind of little pet projects. But this for the bot, that's in the SNB bot repository. If you're talking about the chatbot which is running in Twitch, if you're talking about the chatbot we're working on, the AI chatbot, that's in the chatbox bot repository. So smb.chatboxbot. There should be a README on there which kind of explains it. Okay. So let's remove all this. So we're going to do some kind of basic stuff at the moment. Yeah, if you get stuck, I mean, I'll just paste my Discord in there. So this is the invite to Discord. So click on that, join the Discord, and you can answer any detailed questions you've got about the repos on my GitHub in there. And it's probably easier to have that dialogue on Discord. So click on that, join the Discord, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so we need to have this. Okay, it's only because it doesn't return anything. Okay. So what do we need to do? Well, we can go and steal some code again. We can pop over here to our when next, and here's a Trycatch which we can basically pull out. Let's grab that and just drop that in here. So here we are kind of we're calling our client, and this client so let's go and have a look at our client, because I think we've got some superfluous parameters that are being passed in. So we don't need time zone in there and get live channels. All we need to do is call get live channels. So we're going to call get live channels here. See, that's the advantages of being the strongly typed client. So our channels. Okay, so we also need to have a look in our core project. Up here we should have some interfaces. Where's it? In our core interfaces, we need to just remove time zone from the interface as well. Okay, so that should be happier now. It is. This is going to bring us back a list. If channel's not null, and so this is a nice feature of code which I type the word and then press spacebar, and we get translated into double ampersand. So that kind of saves a bit of. It's what Mark Miller called cognitive strain, or whatever, cognitive load. And channels count. So if you've got any channels at all, we're going to print them out. So what we'll do is we'll have a nice card at some point, but I think what we're going to do is just kind of list out the live channels for now. So Di, you're mainly engaged in Java development, but you're using Python as well. Okay, so I've done some Java quite a long time ago. C# is very similar to Java. I've never done any Python though. So, but there are people on my Discord and also on the Dev Chatter Discord who have experience with Java and Python and can help you all those kind of things. So another Discord to seek out is the Dev Chatter one. Okay, so so this message here is going to be there are no live coding streams currently broadcasting. That's not quite right, is it? Because there probably will be, because it depends on whether they're in our database or not in dev streams. But we'll put dev streams, live coding streams. Yeah, we'll put that in. Yes, and the message I'm having trouble connecting is probably sufficient there. Let's bring in the bot builder namespace for Message Factory. and we need to close this off by returning await step context dot end dialog and passing a cancellation token. So we've been working with this framework now for probably nearly 20 hours, I suppose. It may be not quite as long as that. No, it's probably about 20 hours. So we're starting to get used to some of the basic patterns of working with it. So this bit here, when we've got grayed out here, is all about putting a nice adaptive card to wrap our text in. We're not going to do that, I don't think. I think the best thing we can do is just to list for this stage is to list out the channels which are live. So we'll comment that back because we are going to want a nice adaptive card to display back to our users, because we're using that kind of that UI, and it would be nice to have those cards. So we set up a reply. So let's set up a new string builder. Right, so that's not what we wanted. So let's see if we can figure it out. There we go, string builder. List of streams. See, I'm still learning me Coderush stuff. No. Oh, yes, I'm still inside the naming, so I've got to press return and then equals ASB. No. All right, we'll pick up all these nuances of Coderush as we go along. I've not been concentrating on learning Coderush, so certainly Dev, I would just embarrass myself with Coderush there, but never mind. The list of streams. So for each bar channel in channels, then we can say list of streams dot pen line. What should we say? We'll just have channel dot name. Yeah, we'll do some string interpolation in that. So we'll have channel name. That string interpolation, if you haven't seen it, is live. And then in brackets we'll have the URI of the stream, the channel.URI, and we'll tidy it all up at some point. So that's that. And then hopefully we'll be able to say that reply dot text equals list of streams, and we simply reply saying two string, isn't it? Two string, because it's a string builder at that point. And then we can push out that reply with this send activity async. Otherwise, we say there's no dev streams or we're having problems, and then we end the dialog. And we've got a commented out line there to remind us that we want a nice card. I'm going home. Okay, I don't know if I'll still be on by the time we get back. Depends how long it takes you to get home. But have a good one, and maybe I'll catch you on your stream very shortly. Okay. So we should be in a position to test that and see what happens. Let's give it a run. Here we are. Let's close that down so we've got a dark background. We restart our conversation, and now we're going to press the first button here, 1. And it just says you selected 1. Okay, so it's still going into our dummy dialogue. So let's go and have a look at fixing that up. We can close our GraphQL client down now. Let's go over to chatbot box, and you can see here. Where are we? We're still executing the dummy dialogue. Okay, so we need to add a dialogue to our dialogue set. So we've got a set of dialogues here. Okay, which is a list of the dialogues that this particular bot knows about at this level, so at the main menu level. So let's add a new one of those. So dialogues. Add, and then we want a new and what did we call it? We called it live now, a new live now dialogue, and we need to pass in there the name of the dialogue, so live now intent, as we're going to call it, and we need to obviously pass in a client. So we've injected that client, that HTTP client, right at the start here. We inject it in here from our dependency injection framework. Okay, so now we've got that as a valid dialogue, and instead of invoking dummy, we can invoke that one. Okay, so we've now got 3 out of 4 of our dialogue set up. The hardest one is going to be number 3 here, which is to discover new streamers based upon what I'm interested in watching. So there's actually a PR that's got to go into dev streams in order to make that work for me, but that hasn't gone in yet, so we'll see if Brendan merges that at some point. Okay, so let's give it another go and see if we get any further. Right, we can get rid of the playground now, bring up our emulator, restart the conversation, so we get fresh start, we press 1. So something went wrong. Okay, so that's fair enough. Let's put a breakpoint in here. So in the netware now dialog, let's just make sure we haven't missed anything. Oh, yes, we haven't set up a the waterfall dialog, which we need to define, hasn't been set up, which is why it's not working. Okay, so this basically we've set up a step, the when steps. They'll just call this steps, but that's not sufficient to actually for our dialog to work. We've defined we're going to have that, but waterfall step doesn't do anything at the moment. We need to actually add that waterfall to our dialog. So we add the steps to it, and it's going to be called live now intent. Okay, so basically what that's done, that says okay, we've defined this dialog is going to consist of these waterfall steps. There's only one step in it, and we add that dialog as a new waterfall, which is very similar to what we did over here, you see, where we had a waterfall step. When intent was that one, but we also had a built-in kind of a sub-dialog here. Let's run it again. We've got lots of these open. Let's close some of those down. Open this up. Restart the dialog, the conversation. Press 1. It's going to take a while. It's going to go off and do that query. We need the typing indicator to come up while it's doing that. Having problems talking to the DevStreams database. Let's try again. So it's having problems. So I wonder why that would be. Okay, that's interesting. So let's go and pop a let's go and get it to tell us what's wrong. We'll just put a temporary line in, which will just simply say ex.message. So we'll find out what's wrong. Okay, let's try again. Restart conversation, hit 1, goes away. I cannot from runtime binding on a null reference. Okay, we've got a null reference somewhere. So what's null? We brought the client in. We're using underscore client, are we? Underscore client. So let's pop a breakpoint in here and try that again. Okay, do we get past that? No, we drop straight into there. So client, get live channels is failing straight away. Let's go and have a look at get live client. Get live channels, sorry. So the query is that. This should be live channels. Yeah. But what I'll do is pop a breakpoint in here as well. So I've just opened Codebases. That's one thing I keep doing. Let's pop a breakpoint there as well. Run it up. So we're into kind of normal debugging, which I quite enjoy when it's at this level. Okay, let's try again. Let's see where we get. We can get rid of that breakpoint and we can continue. So we've hit here. Do we get a response back? We do get a response. It's an error. Oh no, errors are null, so it's actually fine. If we continue now, what happens? We get Codebase Help is live. So it's just the fact we're using the wrong label for the query. It was channels and it should have been live channels, which is what the query is called. You can see it's live channels. It has to match up with that. So what it's basically doing, this get data fields as is matching up with the query, and it is doing a like an auto map of all the fields that came back into our channel model class. So we're onto a winner there. So let's have a look at what the output looked like. It said Codebase Alpha is live now, and it gave us a link which we can click on to go to that Twitch channel. So that's quite nice. And it's brought our menu up. So that's all very well. We've pressed 1, but we actually want to be able to type who's live now and it to come back. Let's go and do that part. So this is going to be a bit of Lewis work. We'll go over to our Lewis page here. Go to intents. And here's where we're going to add a new intent. So this is going to be the live now intent. So let's click that. So live now. Save that. Okay, and we're going to follow the same kind of patterns we did before. Rather than using patterns, we're going to actually enter actual text. So as you can see here, with our when next, there's no utterances in. All those utterances are resolved with patterns. However, for our set time zone, because there's no entity involved, no variable value, such as the streamer name or whatever, we can simply type in some sample utterances. So let's do that for our live now. So let's say who is live now? Who's live now? Show live streams. show live streamers. Oops. Show live streamers. Marked up live. Maybe that's what we can put in. That just show live streamers. Show live streamers. Doesn't like that, does it? Show live. It doesn't want to do that one. That's interesting. Let's train it on those values. Couldn't quite understand what it doesn't like. Show. Who's live now? Who is live now? Who's on? Who's broadcasting? Who's streaming? Who's streaming right now? We can so there's some so we can put some variations in there, but we'll just get it working with these three utterances. We publish that to production. That's been published. We can now run our bot. And restart our conversation. We should get a new connection. And we can step in who is live. What's it going to do? Do we need a typing indicator because there's a delay while it goes queries our database, which I was going to say is on a free tier, so it's going off to a free website, which is then querying a free SQL Azure SQL database. So it seems to be. Is it actually doing anything? Let's restart the conversation. Let's press 1. We do get that, and then we say who is live. So it didn't pick up, so we haven't trained that. The model hasn't trained correctly, so it doesn't recognise that. So let's go and have a look at our model. Over here, let's test the model. Let's type in who is live. And it's picked up. Okay, I see what's wrong. It's picked up this. There's two things why it didn't work. I was being a bit kind of premature, really. So this needs to be just edited, so it's got a lowercase l there. Let's get rid of that so you can see. I seem to have hit an uppercase. Go away. An uppercase I there. So let's fix that. Live now. We'll train the bot again, and we'll publish. And then what we need to do is come back to we need to close off our stop the bot running, and we need to go and actually fix that up, because what we didn't do, what I forgot to do, is to go and actually add that to the Lewis resolving component, which is down here. So in our process Lewis result here, we need to actually match on that one. So we've got the help, we've got the when next, but we haven't got the live now. So let's add that. This is going to be option 1. It's going to come back, and it's live now. I've made the same mistake there. Look, live. Got a new keyboard. I'm not going to blame it, but because my spelling is normally pretty awful on stream. But so that's the live now. It's going to match up with option number 1. Let's run it up again. Looks like the model trained okay. We need to add some more utterances, but that was fine. Let's bring this up. Restart the conversation, and we'll type in who is live. See what happens. And it said Codebase Alpha is live. If we type in live, it should come back. Codebase Alpha is live. I think there's not more than me live at the moment that's in our database. So I've only got a few streams in there. Dev Chatter is in there. No Upcat, Gareth Hubble, Rambling Geeks in there. But obviously none of those people are actually live at the moment, so only me. Okay. So that looks like that's working quite nicely now. So let's go over and just train a few more values into the bot. Okay. So live, who's live now? Who is live right now? Who's live right now? Who is streaming? This is where it gets the the accuracy of your models, how many samples you put in. And all these are starting with who, except for live at the moment. So we need to kind of think of some other variants about how someone could ask who's streaming. Who is streaming? And you can see that if you were building a customer services bot or something, you'd have someone who's actually analysing missed intents, looking at the phrases that were entered, and you can do all that in this portal, and then starting to train the bot with those new values. Who's streaming right now? Streaming now. On now. On air now. Okay, and we can go on ad nauseum adding new values. So let's train the bot on those values. It's enough to be to give us a fair amount of kind of flexibility what to type. So there we've trained, and now we can test, and we can say who's live, and that's an 86% match. That's not high enough for us to actually count that as a match. We're currently matching a 90% accuracy. So it's interesting what we need to do, but we can train that and say that was live now. So go and train that. We're kind of reinforcing actually, you know, that was you only get 86%, but that's what it really was. So now it's 94%. So that was actually that one hit. So if we do on now. And this is the disadvantage of this form of actually typing utterances in that sometimes the AI needs additional prompting. So yes, you got it right. You get some reinforcement, positive reinforcement. So streaming now. So that was 98% accuracy. So let's try some of these who's. Who's live right now? It's 98%. So it looks like we're getting some good accuracy. Who's streaming? And that's 40%. You see, so that's who's without the. So that's a good one. Maybe we should train that in. That was alive now. We'll train who's without the apostrophe. Who's streaming? And that should come back at a much. That's now 92%. So who's live? Who's live? And that's now 81%. But we can train that as well. So you could imagine you could spend quite a lot of time working on your bot, but you could actually get business people to do this kind of thing. As I say, they can watch for the failures and then go in and train the bot. This is not a kind of an IT job to do this kind of training. It's relatively easy to do. Okay, collecting data. It's trained. Let's try who's live again. And it should be much higher now. Now it's 93%, so we should be able to publish that updated model. And now when we're going over here, who's live should work. We could try who's on. I'm not sure we trained that one. So it said let's move on. So there's another one we could train. So you can see how you could kind of build this AI part up. It all depends upon training your model sufficiently, and you've got to start imagining what people are going to type, I guess. Okay, so that's probably enough for the stream today. Achieve what I wanted to do. We did our refactoring. Let's just go over what we did. So this is a bonus stream, so don't intend to go very long with it. So we did our major refactoring, which was to come in here and remove any duplicate code. So we moved our Lewis resolver up here, had it return a tuple of a match, an intent that matched, and any options that have been created. In this case, the only option is streamer name. We then passed that into our main switch statement, which is working out what to do. So now it resolves these three here. It also resolves help for us, and if it doesn't find any match to any of those, then we go into our default clause and we call up our Q&A maker personality and come back with some kind of response, which you just saw. There was something like, what did it say? Let's move on. So that was AI doing that as well. That was Q&A maker doing that part of it. We managed to remove a lot of code from our dialog status values. So we removed values from here, quite a bit of code from waiting, and all the code from complete. And we replaced that with a single call to save our dialog, our conversation state, and our user state. And then if we're not in the middle of a dialog, we re-show the main menu. And that kind of solved a lot of issues of having display main menu scattered everywhere and these save changes scattered everywhere. So it's only in the one place where we do that. There's a few things we can do down here a bit later on as well with this welcome message, but that's only in one place. Our class is still pretty large, so this class is topping out to 262 lines, which is a little large for what we want. So this hero card, for example, we can pull the creation of that hero card into our cards. Let's do that, shall we? So let's while we're on here, let's do that. So let's add a new class. Now this is the menu card, main menu card. Make that static, and we'll have a public static create, and then we'll go off to our chatbots, and we go into get hold of that and simply return that. And that's going to be a hero card. We've got a few namespaces to bring in. It looks like we need to pass selected time zone in. Pass a string in. And that's looking good. Let's tidy away any namespaces we're not using, and over here in chatbot there we can say rather than all of that, we can say main menu create, and we're going to pass in selected time zone. That. Bring in that namespace. So that's cut our class down by a little bit. It's pulled all the cards out into one location where we're creating cards. That's a hero card, all the rest are adaptive cards, and if you haven't looked at adaptive cards, they're very interesting things to look at, and you can look to a previous video for that, and we'll be creating an adaptive card next time, I think, to contain all of the list of channels which are live, and also to start to set up for the final menu option, which is option 4. Option 4 is that's option 3. So discover live coding streams covering things I'm interested in, and this is going to be the thing where you say, oh, I want to find streams which do Rust and F# in English, and it will come back with the best matches at the top, and then any kind of weaker matches going down. So a list of those ranked by best match. Okay, so we've got a little bit of tidying up there, which is quite pleasing to do. We've still got a fairly large class here, so we need to, this dummy async step can come out, so we'll come down to about 242 lines, and then we need to look at what we can do to get rid of some stuff, because we're a bit large for a class. We want these done as small as possible. And indeed, when next dialog is also getting a bit large. And what I was thinking here is that we can actually pull out these two steps, the get streamer name and the get streamer info, can be pulled out into their own dialog. So we start to break these things down into very small components. Okay, so let's commit those changes. So episode 29 added live now option. Okay, commit that. I will then, so let's just make sure it actually runs before we do anything else. Then I'll sync it up to GitHub, and it'll be there for you to look at, and to play with, and to fork, and to put any PRs you want to send to me. You can do all that. So that's working fine, isn't it? So when is dev chatter live? So this, because we don't know the time zone, this should ask me for the time zone. So we say United States, we'll say Honolulu, and it should think about it and come back. I'll say the typing indicator is the other thing that we've forgotten. So let's go and just sort that out while we're still on air. So in the when next dialog, we have a typing indicator, which is here. Let's grab that, and we can go and put that in our live now dialog, which is here. So when we come in here, we can send the typing indicator out. So let's check that works okay, and we need to bring in the schema. There we go. Run that up. Start our conversation again. Who is live? I didn't even see a type indicator because it's actually so quick. So that's good. Okay, so I think we're pretty much there. So let's find somebody else to the typing indicator. Indicator. Commit that. Let's go over to sync and send that up to GitHub. So 3 commits going up to GitHub. So they'll be there momentarily. So do feel free to steal the code, do anything with the code really. Have a look at it. Say submit PRs if you've got ideas to extend it. Other than that, I'd like to thank you all for joining me on this impromptu stream. It's been great to have so many people join me at this time, which is a difficult time for a lot of people at work in the UK and in Europe. Let's go over to Twitch and see who is on currently. We've got Code Rush, and we've got Nick Larson. So should we go and raid Nick Larson, assuming he's actually on? Let's make sure he's actually on, because I've had a few instances where they haven't actually been live. Yeah, he is on. So let's go and raid Nick Larson. Thank you everyone for the follows. That was a really kind of wonderful thing to come across. Thank you for finding the stream. We're going to raid now, so do stick with this with the channel, and you'll be taken over to Nick Larson, and do enjoy that. So I'll bid you a fond farewell, and I'll see you next Monday. But there may be another stream before then, I'm not sure, but I'm intending definitely to stream at usual time, 9 o'clock in the evening UK time on Monday. So until then, fare you well.